Factoring a simple trinomial. So if we take a look, we're going to do a little background on the right. So if I take a look, we would have already probably learned how to expand. So if I were expanding this question right here, x plus 2 times x plus 4, we would do FOIL, and we would get x times x, which would give me x squared, x times 4, which would give me positive 4x, and then I'd go 2 times x. Both of those are positive, so that would give me positive 2x. And then 2 times 4, which is positive 8. And I would collect like terms, so those are like terms right there, and I'd get x squared plus 6x plus 8. I can't forget my equal signs. All of those are equal. So if I take a look at the original question and then what it resulted in, we have this equation here, and that is equal to x squared plus 6x plus 8, which we figured out down here. So if we take a look, we're going to try and look for some patterns now. So the first one we hopefully see is we had a 2 and a 4 in the original question. So we have a 2 and a 4 in the original question. And when I expanded it, I ended up with a 6 and an 8. And if we're trying to figure out how those numbers relate, we can see that for the 2 and the 4, those two add to give me the 6. And if I look at the 2 and the 4, those two multiply to give me the 8. So if I want to go backwards, I just need to find two numbers that multiply to 8 and add to 6, and then put them in the original form right here. So let's do that on the left. The original question said that we had to factor. So we need this, and we need to factor it so that it looks like this. And we know what the end result is, but we need the steps involved so we can do it for any simple trinomial. So if I take a look, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to 8 and add to 6. And we get those multiplies to 8 and adds to 6. And the magic pair of numbers is unique. The only two numbers that multiply to 8 and add to 6 are 2 and 4. And so when we factor it, we just write it out. X, X, and then the two numbers you found go in the two spots, plus 2 and plus 4. And that's how you factor it. Let's do another example just to make sure we're good. So let's try and factor this question. We have to look for two numbers that multiply to negative 24 and add to negative 5. So I'm going to write those off to the side just for summary purposes. Multiplies to negative 24, adds to negative 5. And again, there's only a magic pair that satisfies both of those conditions. So usually I try the first two numbers that pop into my head that multiply to negative 24. So the first few that I think of would be 4 and 6. One of those would have to be negative, and we'll look at that in a minute. 3 and 8. And you could do 2 and 12, 1 and 24. When I look at all those pairs, I look for which pair could I add or subtract and get negative 5. So the magic pair right there is here. Now I have to have one of them be negative. So since it has to be negative 5, when you add them, that 8 has to be negative. None of the other pairs work. So those are the two that I have to put into my final answer. So I end up with x, x, and then I have to put those two numbers in. So this one's a positive 3. So this one right here is positive and negative 8. So I put both of those in. Plus 3 minus 8. Don't forget your equal signs. And that's it. It's factored.